My boss's brother Jake had just finished explaining to the board why I should be fired for sabotaging our biggest client, when the conference room door opened and that same client walked in with security footage of Jake accessing their systems without authorization. What happened next proved that sometimes the man you betray is the only one who can save your family's business. My name is David Martinez, and for 3 months I thought I had finally escaped the nightmare of office politics that destroyed my last 3 jobs. Peterson Industries felt different from my first day as operations manager. My boss, Michael Peterson, actually listened when I suggested improvements to their delivery routes. And within 6 weeks, I had saved the company $42,000 in fuel costs alone. The whole team celebrated when I presented those numbers at our monthly meeting, except for one person sitting in the corner with his arms crossed. Jake Peterson, Michael's younger brother and finance director, had been watching me like a hawk since my second week. Every expense report I submitted got scrutinized down to the last penny. When I negotiated better rates with our shipping vendors, Jake questioned why I hadn't gone through proper channels first. The guy seemed determined to find fault with everything I did, but I figured he was just being thorough with company money. Michael trusted me with bigger projects each week. He asked me to redesign our entire supply chain system and gave me direct access to all our major client accounts. The respect felt incredible after years of being ignored or undermined at previous companies. During lunch breaks, other employees would ask for my advice on process improvements, and I could see real positive changes happening across departments. Jake's attitude grew colder as my success became more obvious. He started showing up to meetings I wasn't invited to, then asking pointed questions about my work afterward. When Michael praised my vendor negotiations in front of the whole management team, Jake's jaw tightened and he muttered something under his breath that I couldn't quite catch. His fake smiles during team lunches made my stomach turn, but I kept focusing on my work instead of office drama. The breaking point came during our quarterly planning session. Michael announced that I would be presenting our cost-saving initiatives to the board of directors next month, calling my work exactly the kind of innovative thinking this company needs. The room erupted in congratulations, but when I looked toward Jake, his face had turned completely white. He excused himself from the meeting early, claiming he had urgent financial reports to review. 2 hours later, Jake cornered me by the coffee machine when no one else was around. His friendly mask had completely slipped, replaced by something cold and calculating that made my blood run cold. "David, you seem like a smart guy, so let me give you some free advice," he said, stepping closer than necessary. "This company has been family-owned for 15 years. Michael might be impressed with your little cost-cutting tricks, but remember who's really in charge here. Family comes first, and outsiders who forget their place tend to find themselves looking for new jobs pretty quickly." His smile never reached his eyes as he walked away, leaving me standing there with a growing sense of dread. The sabotage started so subtly that I almost convinced myself I was being paranoid. Important documents would disappear from my desk overnight, only to turn up in random filing cabinets days later. Meeting times would get changed without anyone bothering to tell me, leaving me rushing into conference rooms where discussions had already started. Jake always had perfectly reasonable explanations when I asked about these incidents, but his smug expression told a different story. My computer passwords started getting locked out for security violations I never committed. Email attachments I needed for client presentations would mysteriously corrupt themselves hours before important meetings. When I mentioned these technical problems to our IT department, they claimed everything looked normal on their end and suggested I might be making user errors. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore, but proving Jake's involvement felt like trying to catch smoke. Other employees began treating me differently too. Conversations would stop abruptly when I entered break rooms, and colleagues who used to seek my advice started avoiding eye contact in hallways. Someone was clearly spreading poison about me throughout the company, but the damage was happening behind closed doors where I couldn't defend myself. Jake's influence ran deeper than I had realized. The real crisis hit when our biggest client, Harrison Manufacturing, called an emergency meeting about delayed shipments that were costing them thousands of dollars daily. I immediately pulled up our shipping database to investigate, and what I found made my heart race. Someone had been systematically altering delivery schedules using administrative access codes, creating delays that made our company look completely incompetent. The timestamp log showed these changes were made during evening hours when only senior management had building access. I printed the evidence and marched straight to Jake's office, but he wasn't there. His assistant mentioned he had left early for a family emergency that conveniently coincided with Harrison Manufacturing's angry phone calls. When I tried accessing the shipping database again the next morning, my user permissions had been revoked overnight. Jake had covered his tracks perfectly while making me look like either an incompetent manager or a saboteur myself. Michael called me into his office the following afternoon, and I could see the disappointment written across his face before he even spoke. Jake was already seated across from Michael's desk, holding a thick folder of documents that made my stomach drop. The setup was obvious but devastatingly effective. "David, we need to discuss some serious concerns about your performance and conduct," Michael began, his voice lacking its usual warmth. "Jake has brought some troubling information to my attention that we cannot ignore any longer." Jake leaned forward with fake concern etched across his features. "Michael, I hate being the bearer of bad news, but we have evidence that David has been falsifying reports and potentially sabotaging client relationships to make himself look more valuable to the company." My world started crumbling as Jake opened his folder and began presenting doctored versions of my work, each page carefully crafted to destroy my reputation and credibility in one devastating blow. Jake's folder hit the conference table with a sickening thud that spelled my doom. Every page inside contained twisted versions of my achievements, rewritten to make me look like a fraud who took credit for other people's work. The cost savings I had fought for were now labeled as collaborative team efforts, where my role was barely mentioned. My vendor negotiations were described as unauthorized contract changes that violated company policy. These shipping delays with Harrison Manufacturing started right after David took over client relations. Jake continued, his voice dripping with false concern. "We have records showing he altered delivery schedules without proper authorization, causing exactly the kind of problems we're seeing now." Michael's face grew darker with each piece of evidence Jake presented. The reports looked official and professional, complete with fake timestamps and forged approval signatures. Jake had clearly spent weeks preparing this character assassination, and every detail was designed to destroy my credibility completely. "David, these are extremely serious accusations," Michael said, his disappointment cutting through me like a knife. "If these documents are accurate, you've been lying about your contributions since day one." I tried defending myself, explaining about the altered shipping database and suspicious system lockouts, but Jake had anticipated every argument. He pulled out IT reports showing that my computer had been used to make unauthorized changes during off hours, conveniently ignoring the fact that my access codes could have been copied by anyone with administrative privileges. "This is exactly what I was worried about," Jake interrupted, shaking his head sadly. "David has been increasingly paranoid and hostile toward me ever since he realized I was monitoring his work quality. Now he's making wild accusations to deflect attention from his own misconduct." The meeting room felt like a courtroom where I had already been convicted. Every explanation I offered sounded desperate and defensive, exactly how Jake had planned it. He had systematically destroyed any evidence that could clear my name while building an airtight case against me using lies and forgeries. "I think we need to place David on administrative leave while we conduct a full investigation," Jake suggested, his voice heavy with fake regret. "We cannot risk further damage to our client relationships while these issues remain unresolved." Michael nodded reluctantly, and I felt my world collapse. As security escorted me to clean out my desk, Jake appeared in my office doorway, wearing that same infuriating smile that had haunted me for weeks. "Nothing personal, David," he said quietly, making sure no one else could hear. "You were just too good at your job for your own good. Maybe next time you'll think twice before making family members look bad." Walking to my car with a cardboard box of personal belongings, I felt the familiar sting of workplace betrayal that had destroyed my last 3 jobs. But something was different this time. Instead of feeling defeated, I felt a burning determination to expose Jake's lies and reclaim my reputation. 5 days into my suspension, my phone rang with a call that would flip everything upside down. Lisa Chun from Harrison Manufacturing sounded urgent and worried when I answered. "David, thank goodness I reached you. We just discovered something extremely disturbing in our security logs. Someone from Peterson Industries has been accessing our shipping portal illegally and changing delivery dates without permission. The digital fingerprints trace directly back to your company's finance department." My heart started racing as Lisa continued explaining what their investigation had uncovered. For the past 2 months, someone using Jake Peterson's administrative credentials had been logging into Harrison's system during evening hours, deliberately creating the shipping delays that were blamed on me. They had recorded timestamps, IP addresses, and even screenshots of the unauthorized changes. We were about to report this to law enforcement, but we wanted to give Peterson Industries a chance to handle it internally first. "Can you arrange a meeting with your management? We have evidence of systematic sabotage that goes far beyond simple mistakes." After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen staring at my phone, hardly believing what I had just heard. Jake's arrogance had finally caught up with him, but I needed more evidence to ensure he couldn't wriggle out of this trap. I spent the weekend calling contacts at other companies we worked with, and the pattern of sabotage was even worse than I had imagined. Our shipping coordinator at Global Logistics mentioned strange requests that had come from Jake's office to delay certain deliveries. The accounting manager at Premier Supplies confirmed that Jake had been questioning my vendor negotiations and asking for detailed breakdowns of every contract I had negotiated. He was building cases against me across multiple fronts while actively sabotaging the relationships I had worked so hard to build. On Tuesday morning, my phone rang again. This time it was Tom Bradley, our IT director. He sounded nervous and kept looking around as if someone might be listening to our conversation. "David, I need to see you right away, but not at the office. Can you meet me at the Starbucks on Main Street? There are things you need to know about what's been happening to your computer systems." When I arrived, Tom looked exhausted and guilty. He slid a flash drive across the table with trembling hands. I should have come forward weeks ago, but Jake threatened my job if I didn't cooperate with him. "Everything you need is on this drive. The original files he made me delete, system logs showing his unauthorized access to client databases, even recorded phone calls where he gave me specific instructions to sabotage your work." Tom explained how Jake had pressured him into creating fake IT reports that blamed me for security violations I never committed. Jake had copied my access codes and used them to make unauthorized changes, then covered his tracks by having Tom generate false evidence pointing to my computer as the source. Jake said family loyalty was more important than company policy, and that outsiders like you and me were expendable if we didn't follow orders. But watching him destroy your reputation while you fought so hard to help this company, I couldn't be part of it anymore. The flash drive contained months of evidence showing Jake's systematic campaign against me. Deleted emails where he bragged about handling the David problem. Security footage of him accessing my computer after hours. Financial records showing how he had been billing personal expenses to company accounts under my authorization codes. "There's something else," Tom said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Jake's been planning to frame other employees, too. He sees anyone competent as a threat to his position, and he's already started building cases against 3 other managers who have been performing well." As I drove home with the evidence that could clear my name, I realized this was bigger than just my personal vindication. Jake was a cancer eating away at the entire company, and Michael needed to know the truth before more innocent people got destroyed. But I had to be strategic about how I revealed this information. One wrong move, and Jake would find a way to discredit the evidence and destroy Tom's career in the process. The next phase of my plan would require perfect timing and unshakable proof that even Jake's manipulative skills couldn't overcome. Instead of rushing to confront Michael with the evidence, I decided to let Jake's arrogance become his greatest weakness. I called Lisa Chun at Harrison Manufacturing and proposed something that would expose Jake's crimes in the most devastating way possible. We arranged a formal meeting between Harrison's executives and Peterson Industries leadership to discuss serious security breaches and contract violations that were threatening their business relationship. The meeting was scheduled for Friday morning at 10. I sent Michael a simple email requesting a private conversation 1 hour before Harrison's team arrived, claiming I had critical information about the shipping delays that could save the company's most important partnership. I deliberately kept the message vague, knowing that Michael's curiosity would get the better of him. Jake had no idea what was coming. For the entire week leading up to the meeting, he strutted around the office like a peacock, confident that my suspension had eliminated his biggest threat. He even started undermining other successful employees, spreading rumors about Sarah from marketing and questioning Robert's budget proposals from the engineering department. Jake's pattern of destroying competent colleagues was becoming more obvious to everyone except Michael. On Thursday night, I received a text from Tom Bradley warning me that Jake had been bragging to other managers about permanently solving the David problem. According to office gossip, Jake was planning to recommend my termination at the Harrison meeting, claiming that my sabotage had created irreparable damage to client relationships. His overconfidence was about to become his downfall. Friday morning arrived with perfect timing. I walked into Michael's office carrying the flash drive and printed evidence that would shatter his world. Michael looked tired and stressed, clearly worried about the Harrison meeting and what it might mean for the company's future. Michael, before Harrison's executives arrive, you need to see something that will explain everything that's been happening with our shipping delays and client complaints, I said calmly, placing the flash drive on his desk. What I'm about to show you will be difficult to accept, but it's the truth about who's been sabotaging this company. As Michael opened the first document showing Jake's unauthorized access to client systems, his face went pale. The timestamps clearly showed Jake logging into Harrison's shipping portal during evening hours, making changes that created delays worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Email records revealed Jake's instructions to Tom Bradley about deleting my work and creating false IT reports. "This cannot be right," Michael whispered, his hands shaking as he scrolled through months of evidence. "Jake wouldn't. He's my brother. Family doesn't betray family like this." The recorded phone calls hit Michael like a physical blow. Jake's voice was unmistakable as he instructed Tom to make David look incompetent and bragged about teaching that outsider his place in the family business. The financial records showing Jake's personal expenses charged to company accounts under my authorization codes made Michael's jaw clench with barely controlled rage. "There's more," I said gently, knowing this was destroying Michael's trust in his own family. "Tom Bradley has been documenting Jake's instructions for weeks. Harrison Manufacturing has their own evidence of the unauthorized access. Jake doesn't know they've been tracking every illegal entry into their systems." Michael stared at the computer screen showing security footage of Jake accessing my workstation after hours. His brother was clearly copying files and planting evidence that would later be used to frame me. The systematic nature of Jake's sabotage campaign was undeniable, and Michael's face cycled through emotions from shock to heartbreak to burning anger. "Harrison's executives will be here in 20 minutes, I continued. "They're coming to confront whoever has been sabotaging their shipments. Jake doesn't know they have proof linking the attacks directly to his administrative credentials." Michael closed his eyes and took several deep breaths, struggling to process the magnitude of his brother's betrayal. When he opened them again, his expression had hardened into something I had never seen before. The loving brother was gone, replaced by a business owner whose company had been attacked from within. "What do you need me to do?" Michael asked, his voice steady despite the emotional turmoil I could see in his eyes. Jake sauntered into the conference room 15 minutes late, wearing his most arrogant smile and carrying a leather briefcase that probably contained more lies designed to destroy my reputation permanently. He had no idea that Michael already knew the truth, or that Harrison Manufacturing's executives were armed with digital evidence that would end his career in the most humiliating way possible. "Gentlemen, ladies, I apologize for the shipping delays we've experienced recently." Jake began confidently, settling into his chair like a king addressing his subjects. I'm happy to report that we've identified and removed the employee responsible for these problems. David Martinez has been terminated for gross negligence and deliberate sabotage of client relationships. Lisa Chen's eyebrows shot up as she exchanged meaningful glances with her colleagues. The Harrison team had expected to confront Jake directly about his crimes, but he had just walked into their trap by lying about my termination status. Michael's face remained carefully neutral, but I could see his hands clenched into fists under the conference table. "That's very interesting, Mr. Peterson," Lisa said smoothly, opening her laptop and connecting it to the conference room's display screen. "Because our cybersecurity investigation shows that you've been the one accessing our shipping portal without authorization. These are your login credentials, making illegal changes to 43 different shipments over the past 8 weeks. Jake's confident expression cracked as the screen filled with undeniable evidence of his digital crimes. Timestamps, IP addresses, and security logs painted a clear picture of systematic sabotage that could not be explained away or blamed on someone else. His face went white as he realized the trap he had walked into. "That's impossible," Jake stammered, his voice losing all its previous confidence. "Someone must have stolen my credentials. This is clearly a setup orchestrated by David to frame me after his termination for incompetence." Michael stood up slowly, his movement commanding attention from everyone in the room. "Jake, David wasn't terminated. In fact, he's been working with our clients to uncover your betrayal and protect this company from further damage." I entered the conference room at that precise moment, carrying additional evidence that Tom Bradley had helped me compile. Jake's shock was so complete that his mouth actually fell open as he realized his carefully constructed lies were collapsing around him. "This man you betrayed," Michael continued, his voice growing stronger with each word, "saved my business. While you were systematically destroying our reputation and stealing from company accounts, David was documenting your crimes and preserving our client relationships." The Harrison executives presented their own devastating evidence. Security camera footage showed Jake accessing their building's computer terminals during unauthorized visits. Phone records revealed calls where Jake had impersonated me to authorize shipping changes. Financial audits uncovered how the deliberate delays had cost both companies over $200,000 in lost productivity and emergency shipping fees. Jake's desperate attempts to deflect blame became increasingly pathetic. He claimed the evidence was fabricated, that I had somehow hacked his computer accounts, that everyone was conspiring against him because of jealousy over his family connections. Each lie made him look more guilty and unstable. "Michael, you cannot possibly believe these outsiders over your own brother," Jake pleaded, his voice cracking with desperation. "David has been planning this revenge scheme since day one. He's manipulating everyone to turn you against your own family." Michael's response was swift and final. "Family doesn't betray family, Jake. Family doesn't steal from the company that employs them. Family doesn't destroy innocent people's careers out of petty jealousy and insecurity." The conference room fell silent as security officers arrived to escort Jake from the building. His crimes extended far beyond simple sabotage. The investigation had uncovered embezzlement, identity theft, and computer fraud that would likely result in criminal charges. Jake's final look at me was pure hatred, but it no longer carried any power to intimidate or threaten. Harrison Manufacturing not only renewed their contract, but expanded their business with Peterson Industries by 40%, impressed by our commitment to integrity and accountability. Other clients who had experienced similar problems came forward with their own evidence of Jake's sabotage, leading to lawsuit settlements that actually improved our company's financial position. Michael promoted me to Vice President of Operations 2 weeks later. During the company-wide announcement, he made sure every employee understood exactly what had happened and why integrity would always be valued over family connections at Peterson Industries. David Martinez could have walked away when my brother betrayed him, Michael told the assembled staff. Instead, he fought to protect this company and every person who works here. That's the kind of character and loyalty we will always reward. As I settled into my new corner office, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. Jake's betrayal had been devastating, but it ultimately revealed everyone's true character. Michael had chosen justice over family loyalty when faced with undeniable evidence. The employees who had whispered about me behind closed doors now approached me with genuine respect and admiration. Sometimes the people who try to destroy you end up making you stronger than you ever imagined possible. Jake's systematic campaign of sabotage had backfired spectacularly, creating the very situation he had tried to prevent. The man he betrayed had indeed saved the business, and in doing so, had finally found a workplace where merit mattered more than politics.